You know what? One of the big things that's occurring nowadays is gray divorces. You might not know this, but you have people like Rhea Perlman, Arnold Schwarzenegger, the Gores, Danny DeVito. I mean, there's a lot. We have Julia Garwood. She's a family law attorney here in San Diego. In fact, she was just rated the top lawyer in San Diego by San Diego Magazine, and this is really great for high ethical standards and professional excellence. Now, one thing you don't know about Julia is she is in 2015, she was considered one of America's most honored professionals. It's only accomplished by the top 5% of professionals in the United States. Julia, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So tell us what gray divorces are.
Gray divorces are people in their later years that are getting a divorce. It got termed gray divorces because people are turning gray, or they're turning gray and nobody knows because their hair is colored.
That's why we call it the silver hair tsunami.
Right, exactly.
Now, what? It seems like the social mores and all that have diminished, so people aren't really staying married. Is there a reason behind it?
I think people want to be happy and they want to be in love. And if they are in love, they stay married. I promote marriage, actually. But if they're not happy, they kind of realize that. And at age 60, we're living like 20 more years. And so people are looking at how long you're going to live and say, hey, I don't want to take all this time and be unhappy. Okay,
now, also people are getting divorces because of physical infirmity and things like that. Is that correct?
No, usually that's not the reason. That may happen, and we have to handle that as divorce attorneys. Like, what if that happens? And someone is divorcing someone, and the person that's infirm could be the one getting the divorce. It doesn't have to be the other way around.
Okay. Now, tell us about how divorces work and what should people be doing if they're considering getting a divorce?
Well, there's a divorce and a legal separation, so they have to choose. And what they should be doing is like medicine, getting preventive law or finding out what they want to do, finding out what they can do. There's a whole plethora of things I would have to tell you that we don't have time for, but they should be getting their paperwork together, deciding can they afford to get a divorce because they are in their later years. They might be retired. They might be on Social Security. What does that mean? And they have to look at a lot of factors, and they also have to look at medical insurance.
Okay. Now, what you're really saying there is somebody should get educated about the step they're about to take because it's a major decision and they don't want to take it lightly because they could be shooting themselves in the foot.
Correct.
Okay. Now, what's the difference between dissolution of marriage and legal separation?
You can do everything in a legal separation that you can do in a dissolution of marriage. That is to say that you can get a marital settlement agreement accomplished. And then if you do a legal separation, you can just say if someone does file, because we are in a no-fault divorce state, so either party can file for dissolution of marriage afterwards, you just put in that agreement that everything in this agreement will be incorporated into a dissolution of marriage if anyone files. So you can get everything done. The thing is you're not legally separating. You're telling the world, you're telling your creditors that you're separated, but you can still be on each other's, for example, medical insurance, if that's important to you.
Now, that's the next question. How does divorce affect medical insurance?
It's case by case. You have to look at it. If you're in the military, it might not affect it. If you've been married for 20 years and in the military during those 20 years. But it may affect it that you may not be able to get that particular insurance. We're also after the Affordable Care Act in a whole different ballgame where medical insurance is not necessarily stopping divorce anymore like it would have in the past.
So, okay, so it's not as big of a deal. Now, if I inherited money, is that separate property or am I splitting it?
That's a good question because a lot of people at that age, and let's say 50 or older, are starting to inherit money from usually from their parents. It could be their grandparents. Or maybe they've already inherited money. The question is, did they keep it separate while it was during the marriage? Did they keep it in their own account? That helps. It's not a clincher for it being community property or separate property. But if they're going to inherit, also that's important. I think the important thing is that inheritance, no matter when you receive it, whether you're married or you're separated or you're divorced, it's your separate property. The question is, how are you going to hold it going forward, and how are you holding it during the marriage?
So if you were to inherit money and you're saying, you know what, I'm not sure if this marriage is going to work out, it might make sense if I have that money sitting in a separate property trust that's for them.
Right, or a separate bank account in your name only. It's as simple as that.
Okay, okay. Now, what if we have children together? How does the divorce impact the kids?
Well, and that's a reason sometimes divorce is happening, because the children have all left. They've grown, they've left. People look at each other and say, what do we have in common? You know, do we play racquetball together? Do we walk together? Do we work out at the gym together? And they find out that they don't have a lot in common because the kids are gone. And the kids, if they're healthy, they're on their way to becoming successful adults. Hopefully it won't impact them. But I think divorces impact everybody. And you have to look at that. But they shouldn't, as far as your adult children. They should grab onto their mom and their dad the same way they did emotionally before the divorce as after the divorce or after the separation.
Now, I know you really care about your clients a lot, and because I've known you for a little bit, and one of the big questions I have is if somebody's considering going through divorce or have just completed that divorce, do you recommend a therapy group, a fellowship group for people going through that?
I usually do recommend if I see the necessity. Some people are fine, they don't really need it. If they do need it, it would be a therapist for me to recommend. And the reason for that is the one-on-one is most helpful. Yes, there's a lot of groups around town, and oftentimes it depends on whether my client, like what church do they belong to, they might want to do a church group. Yes, we can find a group for them if they want a quote, divorce group, or a good therapist that would get them on their way and not like take their money forever, but get them through this hump, because it is a very big emotional hurdle. Now,
I have one other question. What if somebody passes away while you're in the midst of divorce?
It happens. The whole thing stops, and the person who's living, it's as if they're still married.
Okay, so that means if somebody's doing I call it a therapeutic divorce, because somebody has so many medical expenses and stuff like that, or going to have that many medical expenses because of long-term care and stuff like that, and they're looking to get a divorce, and now they're stuck with those bills and so on.
Well, they could be, and that depends on their insurance, et cetera, but they would be, if they gave a date of separation and filed papers saying this is our date of separation, the bills after that date should be the separate property of the person whose bills they are. You'd have to analyze it at that time. If those bills were incurred during the marriage and there was no pre or post marital agreement, then they could feasibly be the other party's debts.
Now, if somebody's coming to you and they're looking at getting set up to be a divorce, what's the best piece of advice besides getting educated on that divorce?
Best piece of advice if they're coming to me for a divorce? That this will all be okay. That leave it to us, me, our group, and we'll handle it. And you just try to handle yourself. You try to get yourself in an emotional state where you're happy, where you can handle this, and if you need anything, we're here for you.
Julia, thank you so much for taking some time. I know this is a tough subject for a lot of people watching, but a lot of times when people take that step to be happier in their life, they've got to go through some pain first. And thank you for sharing that information. It was wonderful.
Thank you. I hope it helped someone.
Oh, I know it will. Hey, if you'd like to get more information on a great divorce or get in communication with Julia here, go to the Silver-Haired Tsunami website, where you're going to get some information on Julia and her firm at the Garwood Family Law Mediation Center. Stick with us. We'll be right back.